Please stand.
Live from Burbank, the media capital of the world.
Good evening and welcome to an online meeting of the Burbank City Council for Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. Before we begin our meeting, there will be 2 periods of public comment tonight. Persons speaking during the first period of public comment may address the council on any matter concerning city business and/or any agenda item except the public hearing. Persons speaking during the second period of public comment may address the council regarding the public hearing item only. If you speak on the public hearing item during the first period of public comment, your comments will not be included in the public hearing record. If you'd like to participate in the public comment periods, please call 818-238-3335. We will announce when the phone lines are open for each period of public comment. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, please conduct the roll call.
Thank you. Councilmember Ghiberletti?
Here.
Councilmember Murphy?
Here.
Councilmember Talamantes?
Present.
Vice Mayor Frutos?
Happy to be here, Madam City Clerk.
And Mayor Springer.
Here.
Thank you.
In order to balance the health risks associated with COVID-19 and the public's right to conduct the people's business in a transparent and open manner during the current state of emergency and in the interest of public health and safety, council members will be participating in an online city council meeting. City facilities are closed to the public until further notice, and the public will not be able to physically attend today's meeting. The city is providing alternatives to in-person attendance for viewing and participating in city council meetings. In lieu of in-person attendance, members of the public may participate in the public comment period by calling 818-238-3335. Before we continue with the agenda, tonight we will be adjourning in memory of Parks and Recreation employee Tony Smith. It is with great sadness that the city of Burbank mourns the passing of Tony, one of our influential leaders in the sports community. In his early years, Tony graduated from Weber State College, where he was the #1 pitcher for the baseball team and the football team's best wide receiver. From then on, Tony was known as Bullet because of his lightning speed. He had a stint in the NFL for the inaugural season of the Seattle Seahawks before a hamstring injury cut his football career short. Tony Smith began his service with the City of Burbank in 2005 and instantly made an impact in our community. He quickly became a favorite amongst the kids and an inspiring role model who was known for his positivity and contagious smile. Tony played a key role in restoring the youth flag football program by working directly with sports office administrative staff to enhance league structure, update rules, and recruit children and coaches. Tony was instrumental in establishing the first instructional sports league for youth football, and then continued to build instructional leagues for youth basketball and track and field. Tony's natural love for sports was exemplified through his work ethic and dedication to the young kids in our programs. Tony enjoyed the experience of changing young lives through sport, particularly in the track and field program, where he volunteered many hours in addition to his regular work assignments. Many kids joined the program just to be with Coach Tony. His infectious smile and charming personality could energize any crowd, and he soon became the main announcer for the annual Burbank All-Star ceremonies. He took pride in personalizing his remarks because he knew nearly every kid in the program. Tony's passion and determination added irreplaceable value to existing programs. Tony was the type of person to celebrate a player's first basket or deliver a pep talk to a team that just lost. He looked out for teams and was happy to offer support where it was needed. Most of Tony's work ventures involved teaching and coaching children at various levels and institutions. He also was an actor having small performances in movies, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, several commercials, and many modeling fashion shows in Utah and Beverly Hills. Tony was the CEO of and founded the Clean Sports Organization, an athletic sports company that aimed at teaching young people to play, compete, and win using their own natural abilities without drugs. The Parks and Recreation Department will remember him for his charismatic energy and devotion to raising confident athletes in Burbank. The Burbank City Council expresses our deepest sympathies to family, friends, co-workers, and all who had the privilege of knowing Tony, and is grateful for his commitment to empowering youth, parents, and coaches to be better athletes and leaders in the Burbank community. The City Clerk's office is currently accepting applications for a total of 27 upcoming vacancies on the following boards, commissions, and committees: the Art and Public Places Committee, the Board of Building and Fire Code Appeals, the Board of Library Trustees, the Burbank Water and Power Board, the Civil Service Board, the Community Development Goals Committee, the Heritage Commission, the Landlord-Tenant Commission, and the Senior Citizen Board. The deadline to submit an application is Monday, June 1st, 2020 at 5:00 p.m. If you're interested in serving your community, you may apply online at burbankca.gov/BCC application. Due to the COVID-19, city facilities are closed until further notice, and applications will only be accepted online. For more information, please contact the City Clerk's office at 818-238-5851. I think I neglected to mention the opening on the Burbank Water and Power Board, the Civil Service Board, the Community Development Goals Committee, the Board of Building and Fire Code Appeals. Okay. Our first presentation this evening is for a proclamation declaring May 3rd through 9th as Municipal Clerks Week in the City of Burbank. Thank you. Whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and the office of the professional municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants, and the office of the professional municipal clerk provides the professional link between citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels. And professional municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. And the professional municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community. And professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the professional municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. And it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the professional municipal clerk. Now I, therefore, Sharon Springer, Mayor of the City of Burbank, do hereby proclaim the week of May 3rd through May 9th, 2020, as Professional Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our City Clerk, Zizette Mullins, and to all professional municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. That concludes council presentations for tonight. Our phone lines are now open. If you'd like to participate in the first period of public comment on any matter concerning city business and/or any agenda item except the public hearing item, please call in now at 818-238-3335. City Manager, do you have anything to report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate the time. I'd like to call up our Fire Chief, Eric Garcia, to provide some facts and figures related to COVID as it specifically relates to our city of Burbank, and some of the facts and figures related to where we're at this time.
Thank you.
Eric Garcia, Fire Chief. As Mr. Estes mentioned, I want to take just a few minutes to give an update, a status update on City of Burbank COVID-19 statistics, our operational protocols, and our planning process. So currently, from a citywide perspective, we have 270 overall COVID-19 cases. And with that, unfortunately, we've seen 31 fatalities related to the COVID-19 pandemic as well, citywide. With regard to the 270 cases, we have 158 of those that are ranging from our congregate care facilities, 94 of our residents within our congregate care facilities, and 64 staff. Their relational percentages equate to 59% of our overall 270 cases citywide. And in addition, we have, In addition, we have 21 fatalities out of our congregate care facilities, which equates to 70% of our overall 31 fatalities citywide as well. As for Burbank Fire Department, we've responded to 101 sick to COVID-19 related calls, and of those 101, we've transported 43 of those patients. 22 of those 43 transported patients have via test been confirmed as positive COVID-19 patients as well. As for protocols, the City EOC remains open and operating at a level 2 status with both our planning and logistics divisions in operations. In addition, all city departments are remaining vigilant and continuing to perform all of their respective operations with established best practices and our safety protocols in place. In addition, from a citywide planning perspective, the city executive team is leaning forward, and in that planning process, we've been working toward establishing guidance for the phased lifting of our LA County stay-at-home order. We are utilizing multiple resources in this preparation process to include both or all of federal, state, and county guidelines, and our intent is to establish a solid framework to set the city and the community up for success as we begin moving toward our new norm. This pandemic continues to be a dynamic and extraordinary time, and the city team continues to forge on as we keep pace and even a step ahead as we continue to battle this COVID-19 pandemic. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Now is the time for public comment. Persons speaking during this first period of public comment may address the council on any matter concerning city business and/or any agenda items except the public hearing item. If you speak on the public hearing item during the first period of public comment, your comments will not be included in the public hearing record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. To participate, please call 818-238-3335. There will be an approximate 5-second delay time lag between callers as we finish up with one person and move on to the next. City Clerk Mullins, do we have any callers on the line for public comment?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we do have a caller, and Christine's going to put the caller through.
Thank you.
Our first caller is Michael Salter. Michael, you are live with council.
Good evening, council members. I'm calling regarding agenda item 4, the eviction moratorium. The purpose of the ordinance is primarily to protect residential tenants who need help because they have lost income, and to protect small businesses who need help because they have to close in order to comply with shelter in place. Many municipalities, in their haste to protect residential and commercial tenants, fail to consider that large companies might abuse those necessary protections. Large companies now are being forced to give back tens of millions of dollars in relief funds for which they were not entitled, but took at the expense of small businesses. Large companies are also taking advantage of the rent moratorium and eviction ordinances to the detriment of mom and pop landlords. The council has the opportunity to correct this outrageous behavior. A simple modification to the existing ordinance will protect mom and pop landlords and small businesses against abuses by giant companies. Companies that are too large to qualify for any of the Small Business Administration PPP program, multinational companies, publicly traded companies, companies owned by hedge funds or giant private equity firms should not be eligible or allowed to forego rent payments. These eligibility requirements are an integral part of many other similar ordinances, including those in the state of Arizona, the city of Los Angeles, and the county of San Mateo. If the staff or city attorneys wish to review the possible language for ordinance modification, it can be found in Los Angeles City Ordinance number 186585, section 49.99.1a, the definition of commercial real properties. Thank you for your time, and have a good evening.
Madam City Clerk, do we have more callers?
Yes, we do. One more call coming in.
Thank you.
Our next caller is Ken Simon. Ken, you are live with council.
Thank you. I'm calling about agenda item 4 that concerns bringing up the Burbank urgency eviction ordinance for reconsideration. I'm the manager of a partnership that owns an industrial building near the airport. We are a mom and pop landlord. This building is our largest asset, and our net worth is tiny in comparison with that of our tenant. I would hope that in reconsidering the ordinance, the council would want to make modifications to it in order to make it better. One such modification would be to do what the city of Los Angeles did in their urgency eviction ordinance. The city of Los Angeles recognized that a large company not paying their rent, taking advantage of a small mom and pop landlord, was not an outcome they wanted to encourage or allow. these larger companies should honor their commitments per their mutually agreed upon lease agreement and pay their rent as they are contractually obligated to do. The City of Los Angeles ordinance defines those companies not eligible for rent relief or eviction protection by stating this protection does not include commercial real property leased by a multinational company, a publicly traded company, or a company that employs more than 500 employees. I would add to this definition a company who is not eligible for the PPP program from the SBA. This is the type of wording and definition that should be added to the reconsidered Burbank ordinance. Wording such as this will protect mom-and-pop landlords against abuses by large companies who are taking advantage of a flaw in the implementation of the Burbank ordinance. I hope the council will make this type of modification should the Burbank ordinance be reinstated. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, another caller?
As of this moment, I don't have any calls in the queue, but if you allow us a couple of seconds.
Sure.
Thank you. We do have a call that will be transferred over. Thank you.
Our next caller is Constantine Anthony. Constantine, you are live with council.
Hello, council. This is Constantine. I wanted to talk on item number 4. And my issue is that I'd like to keep a local ordinance in place, at least something as strong as our something at least as strong as what the county and the city has, but more tailored for our specific needs in the city. So I do support a local ordinance, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, do we have another caller?
No calls in the queue.
Okay.
Yes, we have confirmed no calls.
No calls? Okay. There being no further public comment, I now declare the public comment period closed. Now is the time for a brief response from City Council, the City Manager, and/or the City Attorney. Vice Mayor Frutos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I first would like to start by thanking all the personnel in our city clerk's office. These ladies and gentlemen work really hard with all the public records. I just wanted to acknowledge them that they do a lot of great work for the people of Burbank. Thank you, Suzette Mullins. Under your leadership, you've got an outstanding staff. And then for the callers that called in, I'm going to wait for item number 4, but thank you for participating and letting us hear your voice of what your thoughts are as we bring this back up on item number 4. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any others? Okay, thank you. I'd also like to thank the callers, and I'll reserve my comments for when we discuss item 4. Thank you very much. The consent calendar may be enacted in one motion. Madam City Clerk, please read the consent calendar.
Thank you. Item number 1, City Council minutes. We ask that you approve the minutes for the meeting of March 17th and April 21st. Also the dark meetings of March 24th and April 7th, and the canceled meeting of March 31st, and the special closed session meeting of April 14th. Item number 2 is approval of Downtown Burbank Partnership Fiscal Year 2020 Annual Report.
Is there a motion? Excuse me, Councilmember Talamantes? Yeah.
Yes, move the consent.
Oh, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Yes, okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Talamantes and a second by Councilmember Gable Luddy. Will the city clerk please call the vote?
Thank you. Councilmember Talamantes,
Yes.
Councilmember Ghiberletti,
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Frutos,
Yes.
Mayor Springer.
Yes.
Thank you.
This is the time and place for the hearing to consider a request to initiate an amendment to the general plan in conjunction with the Downtown Burbank Metrolink Station Transit-Oriented Development, TOD Specific Plan, and an agreement with Mole and Polizoidis to prepare the Downtown Burbank Metrolink TOD Specific Plan, General Plan Update, and Environmental Impact Report. Before we begin, are there any disclosures relating to this hearing? Mrs. Mullins, have the notices as required by law been given?
Yes, they have.
Do we have the complete file of exhibits, correspondence, including emails and other documents?
Yes, you do. I'd just like to indicate that we did not receive any correspondence on this matter. Thank you.
Will the representative of the Community Development Department please introduce yourself and summarize the matter for us?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. May I please have the presentation up? Okay. And let's start with the first slide. Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Leonard Pache, and I'm a senior planner with the Community Development Department and the project manager. I'm here tonight to present item number 3, which consists of a request to initiate a general plan amendment and approve a professional services agreement in order to facilitate the Downtown Burbank Metrolink Station TOD specific plan and general plan update. Next slide, please. Over the last few years, the lack of housing production and affordability have become issues of statewide concern. The state has mandated that more housing be produced locally as a result of Burbank's Regional Housing Needs Assessment allocation, which calls for the production of 8,000 units over the next 8 years. The city has responded to this mandate by looking for creative ways to ensure local control of development, accommodate the construction of additional housing units to address the jobs to housing imbalance ratio. Consistent with City Council direction, the puzzle pieces shown as part of the affordable housing puzzle represent City Council's guidance to staff in meeting the goal of building 12,000 units, which includes affordable housing and workforce housing in the city over the next 15 years. Next slide, please. The city's affordable housing strategy is a multi-pronged approach to address the 3-to-1 jobs to housing imbalance and the need for affordable and workforce housing. In an effort to provide further guidance to staff on how to address the housing and affordability crisis, the City Council adopted a bold and visionary goal of facilitating the building of 12,000 dwelling units during the next 15 years. With that goal is included staff's ongoing vigilance to help protect the city's existing neighborhoods, while at the same time furthering long-range planning efforts and new development proposals that don't just result in new buildings, but help to build neighborhoods and provide publicly accessible amenities to the benefit of the community as a whole. The proposed Downtown Burbank Metrolink TOD specific plan and general plan update is consistent with the city's affordable housing strategy and City Council housing goals and policies. Next slide, please. In an effort to protect established single-family residential neighborhoods, the construction of new housing will be focused in opportunity areas located along the freeway transit corridor within the airport, Golden State area, and downtown Burbank. This will lead to the update of existing specific plans in these targeted areas. In order to further the City Council long-range planning efforts, and consistent with City Council direction, the city has sought out and been successful in securing grant funding from Metro and the state to help with the cost of the creation and update of city-specific plans. These include the development of the Golden State Specific Plan, which is currently underway, as well as the proposed downtown specific plan that is before you tonight. These long-range planning efforts are intended to not just build buildings, but to help build and protect neighborhoods. Next slide, please. The proposed specific plan area consists of 662 acres of planning area that encompasses the land within the existing Burbank Center Plan and the North San Fernando Boulevard Master Plan, as well as neighborhoods that are immediately adjacent to those two planning areas. The downtown Burbank Metrolink station is in the center of the new specific plan area and plays an integral part in promoting smart growth and transit-oriented development in close proximity to some of our major employment and transit centers. Next slide, please. The goals of the specific plan include, but are not limited to, ensuring that the plan is consistent with City Council housing, transportation, planning goals, and policies, serve as a way to promote infill and economic development that builds and protects neighborhoods, introduce much-needed housing, including affordable housing, encourage station area development around the Metrolink station, continue to create a pedestrian-friendly environment in downtown Burbank, enhance all modes of access between the Metrolink station, downtown, and the rest of the city, ensure that enough parking is available during plan implementation, and continue to create objective development standards and design guidelines to guide development of affordable housing and workforce housing in the area. Next slide, please. The city's general plan realization land use program, LU-3, encourages the city to review existing specific plans through a public process to determine whether the vision, goals, and policies established by the plans remain applicable and appropriate, and revise plans as necessary to ensure that they reflect current desires for each of these areas. The item before you tonight is not a decision on a specific general plan amendment, but merely a request for staff to initiate the project with the help of the consultant. In a process that will essentially come back to you several more times before a finalized plan is adopted. In order to implement this land use program, the project will facilitate the creation of a new downtown Burbank specific plan that proposes to incorporate an update to the 1997 Burbank Center specific plan, the 2012 North San Fernando Boulevard Master Plan, and surrounding areas of both plans into one comprehensive planning document. As part of the project, the new specific plan will include an update to the general plan elements and undertake the appropriate environmental assessment process. Per Burbank Municipal Code Section 10-1-104, City Council must review and approve a pre-application to initiate any general plan amendment. Council is not approving a specific amendment this evening, only a request from staff to initiate the project, which will include a general plan amendment. Approval of this request will allow staff to initiate the project. Project-related changes to the city's general plan and zoning regulations will come back to the City Council and the community for input at different times during the analysis and preparation of the specific plan, and final review and approval when the specific plan has been completed. Next slide, please. In order to support staff with the completion of the project, it was necessary to secure the services of an outside consulting team. A request for proposal was released in November 2019. A total of 9 consultant teams responded and submitted proposals in January 2020. Staff review of the proposals included an interview and presentation by each consultant team. From those interviews, 4 finalist teams were selected for a final round of review aimed at each team's response to 2 supplemental questions, with the first one asking them to explain their approach to facilitating public outreach virtually in response to COVID-19, and the second one asking for a response as to how the proposal would be able to stay within the $1.125 million budget earmarked for the project. The selection process was highly competitive. However, based on review of the responses to the supplemental questions, staff selected the team led by Merlin Polozoides as the most qualified team to assist staff with completion of the project based on their responses to staff questions, which were clear and concise, their extensive experience in the preparation of specific plans, visioning documents, and form-based, place-based codes, and lastly, their assemblage of a high-quality team that has a large presence in Southern California. Next slide, please. As previously noted, staff applied for and was awarded $310,000 in funds from the California Department of Housing and Community Development under the SB2 Planning Grant Program and $410,000 from the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transit Authority under the TOD Planning Grant Program. Furthermore, fees collected by the Community Development Department for ongoing general plan maintenance project and project impact fees were used to supplement the grant funding received, resulting in a project budget of $1,125,000. No additional funds are needed to implement this project. Next slide, please. If the request to initiate a general plan amendment and professional services agreement with Mullen Palazoides is approved by the City Council, then staff will initiate a project kickoff meeting with the consultant team in the coming weeks to finalize project schedule and begin the project. Furthermore, a town hall meeting will be held with the City Council, which is anticipated this summer, in order to provide a formal introduction of the project to the council and the community. As part of this process, staff and consultant will describe the project schedule and processes and begin to engage the community to solicit input from the public and the City Council. Overall, staff anticipates the project being completed by late 2021. Next slide, please. In order to move this project forward and meet the one-year timeline to complete under the current grant agreements with Metro, staff is making a change to recommendation number 2, adding language that will allow for minor changes to be made to the professional services agreement as staff works to finalize the agreement with Mullen Palazoides. The updated recommendation will provide the City Attorney's Office time to complete their due diligence review of the finalized PSA and make any necessary non-substantive changes. The revised recommendation number 2 shall be amended to read as follows. Approve a professional services agreement with Mullen Palazoides to prepare the downtown Burbank Metrolink Station TOD specific plan, general plan update, and environmental impact report, inclusive of changes that may be made to the agreement that do not materially alter the task, schedule, or compensation, subject to approval as to form of the City Attorney's Office. Next slide, please. Staff recommends that the City Council approve staff's request to initiate work on a possible amendment to the general plan in conjunction with the downtown Burbank Metrolink Station transit-oriented development specific plan, and approve a professional services agreement with Mullen Palazoides to prepare the downtown Burbank Metrolink Station TOD specific plan, general plan update, and environmental impact report as amended herein. This concludes staff's presentation. Staff and representatives from Mullen Palazoides are available to answer questions should the City Council members have them. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now open the public hearing to hear from any persons who wish to speak on this matter. Each person may address the council for a maximum time of 3 minutes. To address the council, please call 818-238-3335. The phone lines are now open. Please bear with us, as it may take a couple minutes for the first callers to get through the line. Madam City Clerk, do we have any callers on the line for public comment?
Not as of yet, so if the mayor is okay, we allow us a minute to have him go through the recording. Thank you. So I believe it's safe to state that we don't have anyone in queue or anyone who's actually trying to go through the line.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There being no public comment, I now declare the public comment period closed. Does the council have any questions for staff? Vice Mayor Frutos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question for staff is, so we're looking at the downtown area, 'cause that's where my question is leaning toward. In this study, are we looking at the possibility of the future of the mall in the study, since it's downtown, as far as what's going to happen? What's the recommendation in that study?
Yes, the study would include essentially a kind of a study of existing conditions in downtown and a study of the market analysis of what downtown can support. It won't precisely address the future of the mall, but it would essentially give us direction as to what we can expect the downtown to support in the future, and essentially how many housing units we could accommodate based on current market trends.
Would that also consider any type of rezoning in the downtown area that the study would be looking at?
Yes.
What
Yes.
type of zoning change that they're going to be studying in the future? I just kind of want to know.
It would essentially, because we haven't initiated the project, it's hard to kind of anticipate because we would have to do the existing conditions research, but we would anticipate looking at changing not only the general plan designation, but also the various zoning designations. Because you have the two existing specific plan areas that have their own prescriptive zoning within their planning areas. But then the plan is also looking to expand beyond the borders of areas that surround downtown that currently have different zoning code designations, like multifamily R1, R2, R3, and then even the industrial M1, M2. So the goal would be to look at the collective area as a whole, based on the current condition of the market and what we can anticipate the downtown to support in the future, to come up with a unified specific plan that would look at creating specialized zoning areas and general plan designations for that area.
If I may add, Mayor,
Sure.
this is Fred.
Yes.
Hello, everybody.
Mr. Ramirez.
It's good to see your faces in a while. I just wanted to add to Councilmember Frutos' his question, the response from staff, and that is, we are going to be looking at the mall. We are going to be looking at downtown, both because of its unique nature as far as proximity to a major transit center and being part of a larger area that has major employment. And one of the things that, in the name of the project, transit-oriented development, is we're looking at ways to introduce housing in combination with improving connectivity, both for pedestrians while maintaining vehicular safety. So all those things are things that we think the community is going to want to have a very robust discussion about. And that's what we're hoping that the community will be able to guide this effort. It's not a construct of staff. It's actually more an opportunity for the community to actually help develop and formulate with you all as the elected officials what the vision for downtown should be. The guiding principles that you all have provided is, where are we going to put 12,000 units? There's an opportunity to look at downtown and the larger area as one of those areas, and do it in such a way that we help, as we noted, as Leonard noted, not just build buildings in downtown, but build neighborhoods and connect those with the surrounding residential areas. So all that will be part of the discussion, and we're hoping that it will be very robust. What we're all going to endeavor to do is do that when there's not a lot of face-to-face interaction at a workshop. We're going to have virtual workshops that are part of that process, and the consultant that's being recommended is very well versed both in many of the land use, urban design land use concepts that we could look at as tools to help us reach that vision. But the vision will be that of the community, and that's part of the process.
Now, when my last final question, how is this study going to balance out with the complete street study as that's moving forward in downtown?
I'll chime in, Leonard, on this one. On the complete streets, one of the processes we've told the consultants is that we have multiple long-range projects that are actually moving forward concurrently. We have Golden State specific plan, we have our housing element update that's now starting up, and we have the Burbank, this downtown specific plan. we are actually going to be looking very closely at what the recommendations from the council are going to be on complete streets, because we want to make sure that there is integration between those policies and the efforts that are going to be looked at here. So we've been paying attention to your comments at the last meeting. We're looking forward to seeing development of that plan in line with your long-term goals for having all modes of transportation available. And this particular project will dovetail that guidance into this particular planning document.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Talamantes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I've got a couple questions. It was mentioned that the plan will be ready or completed. The gentleman said two things, late 2021 or summer of 2021. Which one are we looking at? Late 2021?
So our contract agreement currently with Metro runs through the summer of 2021, but because in light of how we have to change our approach to public outreach, we're going to be requesting probably an extension, which would take us towards the latter part of the year. So we note both because under contract, we are scheduled to try to complete this in the summer, but in light of some of the constraints we may experience, we will be asking for an extension.
So does that mean that it'll cost more money than the up and beyond the million plus?
No, sir. I think what we're doing, and I've done it before with other projects, is in light of the current situation to just ask for a time extension, not cost.
So when you're talking about the current situation, you figure that this is going to run through 2021 as well?
No, I think when we say the summer, I anticipate beyond the 1 year from the start of today, that at the most it might take us another 6 months to complete the whole process.
Yeah, I don't like to hear that because it's just going to take it too long. So from my standpoint, the sooner the better. Obviously, doing good work, haste makes waste, but it's just taking too long. When I hear another 6 months to that, anyway, we'll see where it falls. Hopefully, it's sooner than later. The selection of the consultant. I know there were 9 consultants that were first interviewed, and then you broke it down to 4. Now, the 4 that were interviewed further, was it a rating of points, 100 points, and you designated certain points depending on the questions you asked and their responses, or how were they rated?
You are correct. It's a combination of both how complete and concise and to the point their question was, and then we actually had those questions ranked. So there was a ranking by number. So based on that number, and the top 4, I will tell you, were probably within 3 points of each other. So it was very close. But when we looked at that and evaluated the breadth and depth of the work that they had done to date, we felt Paula Zoidis, his team, provided us with the greatest opportunity to be able to meet the goals that we anticipate the city, the community is going to want to see. So they are urban design experts. They are also experts in civic engagement, and they've done quite a few types of this type of planning efforts in the Southern California region. So they are leaders in this type of work.
That's good to hear, because I want nothing but the best coming to Burbank to do our work.
Yes, sir.
Especially in this important plan. So why wasn't that included in the report? That's public information, right?
It is public. It is public information. Leonard and I are new to the city, and I guess not being too familiar with the process. That's public information. The ranking, if so desired, can be provided, but I can tell you the top, as I mentioned, the top point getters were within 3 points of each other. There was a tie at the top, and the other 2 were 1 point off from the 2 top vote getters.
I'd like to see them, please, if you don't mind.
Yes, sure.
Thank you. Now, it was also mentioned that the RENA numbers for the housing, there's 8,000 housing units in 8 years. That's under RENA, right? And then the city has already put forth 12,000 units in 15 years.
So a little bit of background. So the RENA number is one that is currently at this point projected for the next 8 years, that's going to be what we have to bring to the table, so to speak, to meet the larger demand, both for the region, but then also as our fair share for the state. You're correct that even before we got the projected number, the council had already taken a very visionary and bold stance to try to build 12,000 units in 15 years. So if anything, I think you guys were ahead of the game, anticipating that we were going to get at 8,000 units now. And just as a reminder, the current RENA number that we have for the last 8 years was 2,600 units. So it's a huge jump in what the state is anticipating from us. But I think with your all's leadership and the guidance you've given to us through the affordable housing strategies and the goals, that I think we can work with the community to try to get something that gets us to the number as best we can, but does it in a way that still helps build and protect neighborhoods.
So it looks to me like 8,000 in 8 years means 1,000 units per year.
If we're counting by year, yeah, it's pretty. You almost did 1,000 this past year when we think of 77 Front Street and the other projects. So something to aspire to, right?
Let's keep it up. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Gabaletti.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I sent some questions along to staff earlier regarding the scope of work, but I think since this is the initiation of a general plan amendment and we're not even seeing the preliminary recommendations, we're just giving a green light to a consultant to go forward and to start consideration also of the general plan amendment. I'm going to go to just a couple of questions. One had to do, and this is to staff, with the basis for drawing the proposed boundaries, the way they were drawn. So I'd like staff to respond to the rationale behind the boundaries of this project proposal. And then I have a question for the consultants.
So I think I can chime in on this one. The boundaries have kind of morphed based on the grant funds. When we got grant funds initially from Metro, part of the point systems to kind of rank highly was to look at not only transit-oriented development near downtown, the ability to be able to build transit-oriented communities, but we were also trying to look at areas where some of the demographics and some of the lower income members of the community were located in proximity to transit, and try to provide through this process opportunities for them to access public amenities and greater connectivity to the downtown, where some of those services may be lacking, where we have food deserts, where we have disjointed connectivity to transit facilities. So the reason you see the boundaries expanded kind of south of the freeway are for that. Now, when it talks about why did we extend kind of east and west, well, we have the North San Fernando specific plan, which was 2012, and we have a Burbank Center plan that is 1997, last time it was amended. We thought it was an opportunity, because there was a lot of good work that was done with the North San Fernando specific plan, to have one comprehensive plan that goes from by the freeway underpass all the way over to our boundary with the city of Glendale, and looking at both sides of Glen Oaks, especially when you're looking at the possibility of BRT coming into the city. We wanted to look at integrating transit, housing, and commercial development in a way in that area that was cohesive as one larger planning area.
Okay. My next question was, I know you talked about this project will be done within a period of the COVID pandemic, and then we hope to be emerging out of it. And I think as a whole country, we hope to see a vaccine. So my question really is not about the public participation, which I believe is a challenge, and I look forward to that. But also if there are implications from the kind of pandemic we're in right now that would have implications for urban design. And by that, I mean wide enough sidewalks. We even had a rule implemented that required said people could not stand on the sidewalk because it might be too close to others who are using the sidewalk. So I would like to ask if there are provisions, or if you're contemplating provisions that would also recognize some of those exterior urban design features that might be informed by what we're going through right now?
Yes, ma'am. We are looking at that. I think that's one of the, in our discussions with the prospective consultant that we're recommending for you to approve, we looked at different things, both in the urban space as far as we stimulate. I think we're social animals, so we're still going to want to be out in the open. We're going to want to be able to enjoy, shaded areas, safe areas for us to walk, open space areas for us to congregate with our family. Those are going to be kind of the challenges. And the consultant is up to the task to be able to look at those different things, the new normal, so to speak. In addition to that, we'll also be looking at the built environment. I mean, are we looking at office space and floor plates that are what they were prior to the COVID pandemic, where people were looking at 120, 150 square feet? Are we looking at 250 square feet for people to be in? So all those things are going to be looked at, because as the building space interior changes, it also affects the building footprint. And the thing that people get to enjoy is maybe not the interior of the building, but how the exterior of that building interfaces with the open space areas adjacent to it. So all those things are going to be looked at collectively through this process. So yes, it is in their mind, and actually they seemed very excited to take on this challenge of coming up with something that could be very innovative and visionary as part of this process.
And then my last question really is to the consultant. You, staff knows, and council, you may know, and the consultant may know, that I've had some experience with form-based codes. And in my experience of form-based codes, this was in Playa Vista, we ran into some particularly difficult deviation problems when an architect wanted to not follow the form the way it was designed into the form-based code, but had reasonable deviations from it. And what I'd like to ask the consultant is, have they subsequently, or will they be thinking about a form code that allows for a greater architectural interpretation or site planning interpretation when it's implemented through a project?
And I believe Stefanos Palazoidis should be online.
Great.
Stefanos did not receive the invite for this, so he couldn't log in. This is Naik Barney. I'm a principal with Mullen Palazoidis.
Good sound.
You guys
We
hear me?
can't hear you. Can you hold on just 1 minute and we'll see what we can do with the audio?
Can you hear me now? Hello?
You might want to get closer to the mic, Biniac.
Yeah, can you guys hear me now?
Better.
Yep.
Okay, I'll speak a little closer. Stefanos Palazoidis did not get the invite today for some reason, so he couldn't log in. He told me to just that on record. He did not receive the invite.
Still a problem.
We still can't
yeah.
hear you. Can you please bear with us
Yes.
just 1 second while we
Sorry.
check the audio? Thank you.
As long as we're checking, all the phone calls tonight have been horrible in the office here.
Thank you for that.
Should I try now?
Ooh, that's very clear.
Okay. This is Vinayak Barney. Okay. Let me know when I can speak.
Okay, try now.
This is Vinayak Barney. I'm the principal with Mullen Palazoidis. Stefanos Palazoidis did not receive the invite for some reason for this meeting. I couldn't join in.
I'm sorry, we still have a problem. Can you please bear with us?
Yes.
Starts out well.
Mm-hmm.
Try again.
Okay.
Okay, this is Vinayak Barney, principal at Mullen Palazoidis. Stephanos did not get the invite to this meeting for some reason and couldn't join. But thank you for this question. And the way I'd like to answer it is that the science of crafting form-based codes has matured tremendously over the last 20 years. We've in fact, in our practice, even changed, we stopped calling it form-based codes. We're now. Can you hear me, or is it still a problem?
We're having difficulties because you're kind of breaking up a little bit and are in and out.
Sounds like an echo.
Can you hold on just 1 second? Okay, maybe we can. The suggestion is that we give you the question. If you wouldn't mind repeating it, Councilmember Gabaletti, and then you can email the response to us, Van Eyck, Mr. Barnay.
Okay, we will do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Gabaletti?
My question was reflecting on experience I had in the past working with the implementation of form-based codes. And the codes I was working with were done by Moulet and Polizoides. And while they were very fine, when there were deviations from the code, it became very difficult from a planning point of view to make those deviations easy. So I want to know what they have learned from that experience and whether they have an approach that will provide for more flexibility at the point of project approval and implementation of the development standards.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much. We'll look forward to your emailed response to Councilmember Gabaletti's question. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm finished.
Okay. Councilmember Murphy, do you have any comments or questions?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. I do, Mr. Ramirez and Mr. Bechet. I have questions about the boundaries also, because I'm looking at the map, and there's the dashed Burbank Center Plan proposed boundary, and then the red line, that's the existing. So what exactly are the boundaries for this?
So the original, the smaller area where the original footprint of the Burbank Center Plan and the San Fernando North specific plan. So the larger areas that are the dashed lines that extend above Glen Oaks and over to the underpass along Scott Road in San Fernando. Yes. That's the expanded boundary areas, so that we could capture those adjacent neighborhoods and have one cohesive review, because what we wanted to do is not have a hard interface at those boundary lines. We wanted to make sure that as we get to those edges and we start butting up against residential neighborhoods, that we're doing it in such a way so that we mitigate the impact, any potential impacts to those adjacent neighborhoods in those areas.
Okay, so so where the blue dashed line stops, the red one begins, right? Say on the southwesterly side of the Golden State Freeway, like it extends on West Burbank Boulevard and then it goes down Mariposa.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's a combination of the blue dashed line and the red line.
That is correct. Yeah.
Correct. And if I can add, the red line is the current Burbank Center Plan boundary.
Yes.
And then the dashed line would be what it would be extended to, inclusive of the North San Fernando master plan.
Okay, so it's pretty much unchanged over here on the Victory Boulevard side.
Correct. With the exception of the properties immediately adjacent to the Alameda interchange of the Interstate 5 freeway. The properties off of Lake.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Well, I think the timing of this is perfect. I think hopefully it will drive some economic recovery for Burbank, and also in conjunction with our complete street plan, the proposed bus rapid transit, potential proposed 15-minute train service through Burbank, and the grant we just got, the safety grant along the rail. So I think this is a very exciting project. So is there a motion? Yes, Councilmember Gabaletti.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I didn't hear you close the public hearing, but have you closed the public hearing?
Yes, I will. I declare the public hearing closed. Oh, thank you. So now we deliberate. Oops, sorry.
Right. So without making a motion initially, I agree with you. I think this is a great opportunity. And when the time is right, I'm happy to make a motion after everybody else's comments.
Okay, well, I don't want to rush it. If there are any other comments, deliberations that you'd like to undertake? Yes, Vice Mayor Frutos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will also be joining in supporting the staff report and moving the study forward. We do have to look at, obviously, what we've done so far with amending our housing element and with transportation and complete streets. This is going in the right direction. I like the questions that were asked this evening, and I will be supporting the staff report.
Thank you. Councilmember Talamantes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, this is exciting. I mean, this is going to be a work that's going to last us for 20, 25 years, at least, hopefully. So I'm looking for a lot of good work coming from here, a lot of good results, a lot of good recommendations coming from this firm that we've selected, or in the process of selecting. So this is very exciting for the city of Burbank. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And I agree with Vice Mayor Frutos that with our housing goals, I mean, it's just fitting together like a nice puzzle, you know, all of the things that are going on, and hopefully housing can drive economic recovery in Burbank, be one of the drivers of it. And so thank you. So there was a motion.
And I second.
Okay, thank you. Madam City Clerk?
Madam Mayor, if you can clarify the maker of the motion, was it
Yes,
Councilmember
it's-
Gabaletti?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to confirm. I didn't see the hand.
And the second
And the
was,
motion is as amended by staff in the latest staff report.
And the second was Councilmember Talamantes, correct?
yes.
Okay, thank you. If you would like, I can take roll call right now. Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Yes, okay,
Do we
thank-
need to read the recommendation, or are we okay? Okay, thank you. Yes, please.
Thank you. Councilmember Gabaletti?
Yeah.
Councilmember Talamantes?
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Frutos?
Yes.
And Mayor Springer?
Yes.
Thank you.
There's one report to council tonight to reconsider whether to extend the eviction moratorium and subsequently consider and adopt an urgency ordinance extending ordinance 20-3-934. Will Maribel Leyland, Housing Authority Manager, please present the report?
Yes. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Maribel Leland with the Community Development Department. Just for a bit of background, the Burbank eviction moratorium that was adopted on March 17th, 2020 in response to the coronavirus pandemic prohibited the eviction of commercial and residential tenants for the non-payment of rent due to COVID-19. That moratorium expired on April 30th, 2020. On April 21st, staff provided an overview of that ordinance and other eviction moratoria orders in place, including the state eviction moratorium for residential tenants, that is in place through May 31st of this month. The Judicial Council's order prohibiting all evictions at this time, with the exception of evictions to protect health and safety, and the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors action on April 14th that amended the county executive order on the eviction moratorium of March 19th to include incorporated cities with no eviction moratoria in place. Staff explained that night there is no current case law that gives the county such jurisdiction, and that ultimately this authority would be determined in the courts. The same night, the City Council adopted an uncodified urgency ordinance specifying repayment of rents that gives residential and commercial tenants until November 30th, 2020 to pay back rent due, late fees, and other penalties deferred under the city's eviction ordinance. The urgency ordinance on repayment of rents amended the timeframe in the eviction moratorium, and it terminates on November 30th, 2020, unless further extended by action of the City Council. And the City Council voted that night to allow the Burbank eviction moratorium to sunset. It ended on April 30th, 2020. During the April 28th council meeting, a council member requested reconsideration of this decision. The first action, I should say, this evening is for the City Council to decide whether to reconsider this decision of April 21st, which allowed the urgency eviction ordinance to sunset. The procedure for this is for a council member to move for reconsideration, and if there is a second, debate the question and then vote. If a majority votes to reconsider the April 21st decision, then the City Council may consider adoption of an urgency ordinance extending the eviction moratorium. The adoption of the urgency ordinance extending the moratorium would require a 4/5 vote. Should the Council agree by majority to reconsider the adoption of an urgency ordinance extending the moratorium, again, that would require a 4/5 vote, staff has prepared an uncodified urgency ordinance for council consideration. This ordinance is an extension of the urgency eviction ordinance to May 31st, 2020, retroactive to May 1st, with the modification that tenants must provide verifiable documentation to their landlord within 30 days of the rent due date. The documentation is to be negotiated between a landlord and tenant, and circumstances may vary between different tenants. This proposed ordinance applies the eviction moratorium as currently written to both residential and commercial tenants. Based on the council's decisions this evening, staff will update documents that have been prepared and posted on the city's website to assist the public in understanding the different eviction moratoria orders, and will continue to educate the community through information on the website and social media. For residential tenants, the Landlord-Tenant Commission will continue to be a resource to help educate landlords and tenants, and is available to work with both parties to mediate issues, including repayment plans if necessary. This concludes staff's presentation. We are happy to answer any questions you may have. Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So the first step is to reconsider. Do we want to reconsider the eviction moratorium? Yes. Vice Mayor
Madam
Fritos.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to just put the motion forward, if there's a second, to reconsider as the step one. So I'll make the motion.
I'll make a second, Madam Mayor.
Okay. So we have Vice Mayor Frutos was the first, made the motion, and seconded by Councilmember Talamantes. Okay, so then step 2 is consideration and adoption of an urgency ordinance extending.
Madam Mayor, we have to vote on the motion on the floor.
Oh, sorry. Oh.
No worries.
Happy to take it. Vice Mayor Frutos.
Yes.
Councilmember Talamantes.
Yes.
Councilmember Ghiberletti.
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy.
Yes.
Mayor Springer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
If I may, before the council starts deliberating on the urgency order, I was just rereading it, and I'd like to mention that we need to add something to it, because it did not explicitly, although I believed it was there, but it's not. It doesn't explicitly say this ordinance is retroactive to May 1st, 2020. So when council's considering this, I would suggest that it be, right now, there's on page 3 of attachment 1, there's a Council of the City of Burbank does ordain as follows. There's a number 1 and number 2, and number 3 starts talking about CEQA. I would add a new 3 that says this ordinance is retroactive to May 1st, 2020, so that there's no question. And then number 3 becomes 4, 4 becomes 5, 5 becomes 6, and 6 becomes 7. So I apologize. I thought it was there, and that was the intent.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you.
Okay. So step 2.
Okay.
Councilmember Gabeletti.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. One additional item I'd like the council to consider was raised by the speakers during general public comment. And
Salter and Simon.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And so I'm not quite sure how to say this, but I do think that they have a point. I certainly think that we've seen enough about large corporations, some of which have returned PPP because they were not eligible, some of which did not. So in the interest of trying to draw that fine line between corporate commercial tenants and small mom and pop tenants, I would like to have a provision that makes small commercial tenants who are eligible for PPP, and maybe there's some other considerations to be beneficiaries of this proposed moratorium extension. I'm not sure, Madam City Attorney, if I make myself clear or not.
I believe what the, Madam Mayor, if it's okay.
Sure, of course.
Thank you. So members of the council, what's being suggested is that I believe we could draft some type of language if the council, and remember this needs to be adopted on a 4/5 vote, so if all of the council, 4 of you concur, that we can also add a new section. We'll change all the numbering and we'll do that at the end. But that could say that for a commercial tenant to qualify for relief under this ordinance, said tenant must meet the eligibility requirements for the Small Business Administration's Payback Protection Program. It could be as simple as that. And that program, you have to have less than 500 employees. One of the gentlemen on the phone made a reference to the city of LA's. I'm not sure I have their exact language. I did find some language that was, rather than saying it the way the council member Gabeletti just responded, talked about the tenant could not be a multinational company, a publicly traded company, or a company that employs more than 500 employees. I believe that if you look at the Small Business Administration Payback Protection Program, as I said, that is for companies that are under 500. The problem I have with some of the other language is you could have a smaller company that may be traded publicly. It doesn't, necessarily preclude size. So those are 2 different options the council might want to consider as you go through your debate. But we have clear guidelines as to the Small Business Administration's Paycheck Protection Program. So we have an identifiable program that we can refer back to, and that landlords would be able to refer to as well as tenants themselves.
If I may add, Madam Mayor, is that we do have a slide with some of the information that City Attorney was mentioning for the Paycheck Protection Program, if that helps in the discussion. We're happy to pull that up.
Yes, could you please? Thank you.
Please, if I could have that first slide there. Thank you, Ms. Albano. It's Paycheck Protection Program, and this is just a quick snapshot. We would encourage landlords and commercial tenants to visit the SBA website for additional information. And as was mentioned a minute ago, it's a small business with fewer than 500 employees, would otherwise meet the SBA standard, size standard. individual who operates as a sole proprietor, an individual who operates that as an independent contractor, so forth and so on. You can see that list there. So we do have, those would be the parameters if we refer to the Paycheck Protection Program specifically as suggested.
Thank you. Other comments, questions? Councilmember Talamantes. Yes, can you please unmute?
Mayor,
Thank you.
I would agree with Councilmember Gabaletti, moving forward on something like this. You know, I've always, in my own mind, and I should ask this to our city attorney, what's a mom and pop? A mom and pop, is there a ranking as far as square footage, as far as number of employees? You know, so there's no definition of a mom and pop other than you would reference it yourself, I guess.
You're absolutely correct, Councilmember Telmontes. There is no definition. And there's some of the other things that we've seen people say, like a large multinational corporate. I mean, some of the terms we have to be careful with. So we try to, the two examples I gave were more objective criteria than mom and pop or some other words that might be used.
I would like to see what LA City has put forth.
Well, I believe that the language I read to you is, I cannot absolutely guarantee, I believe the language of multinational company, a publicly traded company, or a company that employs more than 500 employees, I believe is from LA City. And lo and behold, Maribel Leland just handed me theirs, and it's what I just read. So that is from LA City.
Would you reread it again, Madam?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we can say the restrictions do not apply to commercial property leased by a tenant that is a multinational company, a public traded company, or a company that employs more than 500 employees. A second alternative, if you'd like me to repeat the second one, is for a commercial tenant to qualify for relief under this ordinance, said tenant must meet the eligibility requirements for the Small Business Administration's Paycheck Protection Program. I believe either one of those would maybe accomplish what I've heard a couple of you discuss already this evening. Thank you.
I would defer to my colleague, what she feels would be appropriate.
I have a
Councilmember
question.
Gabaletti?
Yes, Councilmember Gabaletti.
Either way, let's listen to others and see what they have to say as well.
So I have a question. So the second language, like they're excluded if they don't qualify for the SBA programs and the PPP. So does that preclude multinationals and publicly traded companies inherent in that?
I would need to double check. I believe that most multinational companies are probably going to be beyond it, but I would need to double check on this Paycheck Protection Program. So I can do that while you're deliberating or discussing, I should say.
So I guess my question is, could it be a combination of the two?
Well, I think that if you did the first option, that covers, the first option says no employee greater than the first option precluded employers with more than 500, and that's what the Paycheck Protection Plan requires. So that part is already in that first one.
So does that mean 500 total employees or 500 employees at that site?
No, total 500 of any, wherever they are. And that includes, my understanding is that includes the, like under the Paycheck Protection Program, it includes like part-time employees, all your different numbers of employees, they all add into that 500.
If I may add one clarification for the location, I do have just some information from, again, the SBA loan. If you are in the accommodation and food service sector, the 500 employee rule is applied on a per physical location basis is what the information on the website shares, and that's the reason to really make sure that tenants and landlords really refer to the SBA information for all the details.
Thank you very much, Ms. Leland.
So the SBA information says 500 per site for food.
Correct. There are some special rules, and I'm just going to read this. In addition, some special rules may make you eligible if you are in the accommodation and food services sector, and there's different codes for different retailers. 72 is the number for this one. The 500 employee rule is applied on a per physical location basis. And then there's more information if you are operating as a franchise or receive financial assistance from an approved small business investment company. There's also other provisions that those businesses can look to. And then the 500 employee threshold includes all employees, full-time, part-time, and any other status.
And they could be eligible for PPP, and they might be a multinational or corporation.
The answer is multinational companies may be eligible. The key is the interaction of the affiliate rules and the limit of 500 employees.
Yes, Councilmember Gabaletti.
I after thinking about it, I think with what the city attorney just said and what staff has said about the SBA PPP loan eligibility, I think we should go with language that's in that direction. So if you are eligible for PPP, it means that the federal government is going to, through banks, provide to you loans that are forgivable if you keep your employees on, if you continue to pay the rent, if you continue to keep your business afloat. That's my understanding of it. So wherever there is a business that is eligible, I think that there's a clear recognition that these are the businesses that do need the help. So I like going on the basis of eligibility for small business loans. I don't know if there are any horrible loopholes in there. There seem to be loopholes everywhere, but at least as a justification, it seems to me that's a good way to approach it, rather than the other way, which was adopting something similar to Los Angeles that talks about multinational, when in fact there could be multinationals who are eligible for SBA and PPP.
I would just like to say it may, and we're looking at the Paycheck Protection Program today, and so as you know, there's been a refunding of that SBA loan program, and that may have clarified some of the rules. So it's supposed to be designed for employers with 500 employees or less. This includes sole proprietors, independent contractors, self-employed, private nonprofits, veterans organizations. And so I don't, I'm reading some information, and I don't want to rule out whether it does or doesn't preclude some of those. And I think when we were looking at it, we looked at it in terms of it would be a way that we could go to an exact place and see who's eligible. So, and I know that there was some concerns originally about some loopholes in it my understanding that things have been changed. So I don't want to misspeak on anything further with it.
So if we added in a line about excluded are multinationals and publicly traded, would that close the loophole? Because we just want them to pay, and in this instance, we want them to pay the rent.
I
they can
think that
apply
the
for the
council can
PPP.
do whatever you tell us to do. We can do a combination. I think that if you said the first example I gave, which is if the council so desired and went with the restrictions do not apply to commercial property leased by a tenant that is multinational company, public traded, or a company that employs more than 500, that you somewhat accomplish that because I believe most of what we've seen from what Ms. Leland said, as well as myself, is that you have to have less than 500 employees to be eligible. So if you went with that first option, then you've definitely, they wouldn't be eligible for the PPP because they have more than 500 by the very definition. And you're looking a little perplexed, so I apologize if I'm not being clear.
Yes, Councilmember Murphy.
I'm going to support the motion tonight. I think it's really interesting to see how our tenants and our landlords have come together, all of whom want to stay under the umbrella of the Burbank moratorium. I thought it was really interesting. It's the first thing that I've seen bring them together. So I think we should extend it. And I think the language that the city attorney has mentioned, would be very helpful to the problem that was pointed out by Mr. Salter and Mr. Simon. So I'm all in.
Mm-hmm. But I still have a question. Can we do a combination, no multinationals, no publicly traded, and not one that's eligible for PPP?
I believe you would want them to be eligible for PPP. So you could say, if you chose no multinational, no, what was the other word? Sorry, let me get that up.
Publicly traded.
Publicly traded, and no one who is ineligible, because we're doing the negative. So it would say the restrictions do not apply to commercial property leased by a tenant that is a multinational company, a publicly traded company, or a company that is not eligible for the Small Business Administration's Paycheck Protection Program.
And that includes the 500 employee,
Right.
just by the fact of the PPP.
Right.
Right. So, Councilmember Gabaletti, what do you think?
I could go either way. It's fine.
The combination.
I'm not sure what you're combining. I think what I heard the city attorney say was, or you could say you exclude the multinational publicly traded company that is not eligible for the loans.
Actually, Madam Mayor and Council, I gave a third option, which was the restrictions. I've combined it, so it would be the restrictions do not apply to commercial property that is a multinational company, a publicly traded company, or a company that is not eligible for the Small Business Administration's Paycheck Protection Program.
And you couldn't ask for anything better, Madam Mayor. Combination of the two.
Mm-hmm. There's, I think we plugged the loopholes. Yes, Vice Mayor Frutos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to throw a question out to the council, see what the thoughts are for the discussion. In dealing with landlords and tenants, one of the emails that we received is that we didn't discuss possible documentation in our local ordinance that protects everybody equally and fairly, that they have to, when they're working it out with their landlords or the landlords are working it out with the tenants, that there's some type of documentation that, yes, I lost my job and it didn't work because of the Corona-19 virus. I'm throwing it out there for discussion. I did get approached by a couple folks in the community that was looking at us more for direction of local control. Just a question to throw out to the council.
So, Madam Mayor, if I might?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Frutos, members of the council and public, the urgency ordinance in front of you, because we did hear concerns about that our earlier ordinance did not clearly state that tenants had to give notice to the landlord, and a question came up about documentation. So if you look at your urgency ordinance attachment 1 on the 3rd page, number 2 says this urgency eviction ordinance, the urgency eviction ordinance number 20-3934, section 1B is amended to read as follows. And if you bear with me, we added language that says a tenant unable to pay the rent must give the landlord notice of the reasons for non-payment based as outlined in paragraph 1A. Said notice shall be given no later than 7 days after the date that rent was due, and if 7 days from rent being due has already passed, then within 3 days of adoption of this ordinance. The tenant must maintain verifiable documentation of the reason for the non-payment of the rent, and this documentation must be provided to the landlord no later than 30 days from the rent due date. So we did include language, so if the council would want something different or doesn't want that or wants to discuss it further, I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Councilmember Talamantes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam City Attorney, is there anything that would preclude a property owner from calling the person's business or employment to find out, to verify whether he was unemployed or not?
I don't know if anything would preclude it, but I would, if I was that business, I would not give out information without a signed release from the person that you're calling on, just like, when people call for income verification, there is a procedure that you go through to do that. So that's all I'm suggesting.
So they can't call?
I would
you're
say
telling
they...
me that you're telling me that the business or the employer shouldn't say anything.
I would think most employers would not say anything.
Yeah, I'm not asking you that question. I'm asking you that the property owner, he could take it upon himself to call the business. Whatever the answer might be, he can't call the business to verify employment. Right?
Yes, I guess the property owner could call anybody they choose to verify information.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Frutos, did you have a comment?
Oh, no, ma'am. I'm just wanted to make the motion if we were ready. If not, I didn't mean to raise my hand, ma'am, but thank you for acknowledging me.
Sure. I just have one more question about the LA ordinance. Could you please read that again?
On the part on the
who's
excluded, it says the restrictions do not apply to commercial properties leased by a tenant that is a multinational company, a publicly traded company, or a company that employs more than 500 employees.
Okay, and so your third option adds not eligible for PPP.
No, the third option removes or a company that employs more than 500 employees and says, or a company that is not eligible for the Small Business Administration's Paycheck Protection Program.
So did you hear that, colleagues of mine? Is that what we want to go with?
I'd ask Councilmember Gabeletti. She's the one that started the discussion.
Great. Councilmember
we can go with that. That's a combination.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Would you like to make a motion?
Well, I'll move the amendment to the urgency ordinance the council currently has under consideration.
And so, Councilmember Gabeletti, just so I'm clear on the motion before you have a second, it would include that we will add a new section that does what we just said on the restrictions, and then we would add a new section that says this ordinance is retroactive to May 1st, 2020.
Both of those are perfect.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, so there was a motion by Councilmember Gabeletti and a second by Councilmember Talamantes. Yes, Vice Mayor Frutos.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the city attorney, as it's come up a lot in discussions with community residents. This is a city of Burbank policy we're moving forward on. How does this play along with the county and the state as we're maintaining local control? Obviously retroactive to May 1st if it passes. Can you please explain it to the members of the audience that are watching tonight of where this falls in line with the state and the county and our local control, ma'am?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council, members of the public. So if council adopts this ordinance by a 4/5 vote this evening, then the county's order on their eviction moratorium order would not be applicable in the city of Burbank, and only our urgency eviction moratorium ordinance would be applicable. So the timeframes in it would go to May 31st as proposed this evening, and that matches currently the both the state and the county's moratorium. They're all to May 31st, so it would be in line with that.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney.
Councilmember Gabeletti.
Now, I just wanted to ask a quick question. My motion was to amend the current urgency ordinance. Do we have a subsequent action to adopt the urgency ordinance, Madam City Attorney?
I thought you were moving adoption of the urgency order as amended by statement here tonight. So there's an urgency ordinance in front of you. So if you rather do it in 2 steps, we can, or we can do it all in one.
For the all-in-one.
Yeah, all in one sounds good.
That's what I thought.
Okay?
All in one. I wanted to give the
Yes.
Vice Mayor the courtesy of doing the main motion, but Vice Mayor, you good with that?
I'm good with it, ma'am, but thank you for asking. Thank you.
You're so welcome. I'm proud to move this ahead, as I know you are also.
Second.
Okay, so
Ready for a call?
yes, thank you.
Councilmember Gabeletti?
Yes.
Councilmember Talamantes?
Penalty.
That was a yes. And Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Frutos?
Yes.
Mayor Springer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. This is the time for brief council comments, including reporting on council committee assignments. Who'd like to start? Councilmember Talamantes.
Madam Mayor, thank you. I just want to report on one meeting that I attended of many. I attended a Northern Corridor Cities meeting that's hosted by Councilmember Aaron Ajarian. He's also a board member of Metro. And we had a speaker. We had Phil Washington. Obviously, we all know he's the CEO of Metro. He just brought out a few things in regards to how they're losing revenue. Metro, they're projecting to lose from March to August. They're projecting to lose $23 million per month of their fare box revenue. $23 million per month from March to August. They're also projecting from the sales tax portion, they're projecting $800 million to $1 billion loss from March to August. So that's it. It's hitting Metro really hard. So he's prioritizing. He's putting some projects aside. They're going to be on hold for now. This coming Thursday, the Metro Board is going to get his presentation and his recommendations to see how they move forward. He also talked about the CALSTA TIRCP grants, where we got where the assemblyman, not the assemblyman, but the supervisor was able to acquire the $107 million to the Metro Antelope Valley line. And to that, North County cities put in $113 million. So there's a total of over $200 million for that Antelope Valley line. So that's going to happen. Out of that 222, 20 million are going to go to 30 zero emission buses. 95 million is going to go to connect new housing and entertainment, which is a fancy way of saying you're going to build a 1.6 mile people mover in Inglewood. It goes from downtown LA to the new football stadium. So that'll be $95 million towards that project. 1.6 miles, 1.5 miles. Also, High-Speed Rail approved $423 million for a Link US to Union Station. And it'll be it'll drive right through. No more of this pulling in, backing out. It's going to drive on through. So that's going to be $423 million, and they're looking probably for total project to be over $1 billion for that project. What else? He mentioned that there's a federal task force of 30 members. Mr. Washington is one of the co-chairs. There's 4 co-chairs around the country. He was appointed as the co-chair for the federal task force. So it's just, it's really, Metro is going to have to deal with a lot of tough decisions moving forward, what projects to move forward, projects to set aside. Just like we are going to be faced with it. So that's all, Madam. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Vice Mayor Frutos, you're on mute. Okay.
I could go.
Councilmember Murphy.
I attended a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce, a very small meeting about restrictions and opening up. And I thought it was very productive. And I'll have some additional comments on that, I guess, with new agenda items.
Thank you. Councilmember Gabeletti.
I saw Vice Mayor Frutos had his hand.
Okay, it was a tie. Okay. Vice Mayor Frutos, but you have to unmute. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to just report out that just on the phone, talking to residents, the pulse of the community. One was obviously the moratorium, the rent issue that we just dealt with. The other issue that's very important to people, and then it's kind of split on both sides. Some people are concerned that a lot of people in Burbank, from their perception, are not wearing face masks. Some other persons are saying, hey, you know what? We don't have to wear face masks. So, dealing those type of conversations. I did have one community member that felt that they were very upset to see the crossing guards to be sitting on Chandler advising people to put masks on or not masks and monitoring people. So, there's a lot of, frustration. And I also had a conversation with a community member regarding the summer school funding from the federal government. And I'll be asking, I'll bring that up in an agenda item with the city manager. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gabeletti.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. report out that last week we had a meeting of the League of California Cities, LA County Legislative Division to discuss some bills and communications. The League has sent a letter of opposition unless amended on SB 902, which is Scott Wiener's junior SB 50 law. For those who have not followed this too closely, it proposes that every single family lot be allowed a fourplex. He calls it SB 50 light. I call it SB 50 dumb. And as was pointed out under the current ADU law, with this other law under consideration, it could be up to 7 units per lot. So it's making even less sense. The League sent a letter. Councilmember Talamantes may have other information from the State League on this. Our objections are clear. This is not affordable housing. It allows up to 7 units. And until there's a clear picture of how work habits may have been changed through this coronavirus pandemic, this is not the way to go. Cities still should have the right to determine how they're going to meet that housing gap, and the state needs to think about providing assistance. There are a couple of other bills in Sacramento to help finance the affordable housing. We just don't know where that's going. And I don't know, Councilmember Talamantes, if you have any other light you can shed on the State League and what they're doing, but that's what our league call was about. The other thing was we're sending a letter to the governor, just as Councilmember Talamantes said with respect to Mr. Washington. The letter to the governor is asking that the state establish a city revenue stabilization fund, since for the next 12 months, sales tax is deferred up to $50,000 for all businesses that pay tax. So cities, agencies like Metro, we're all going to be having some pain over this issue. And then finally, LA County Housing Services Agency has initiated with the Governor of California Operation Room Key, Project Room Key, which some members of the League have strong objections to, because essentially it means that LAHSA could basically take over a hotel and house unsheltered individuals. Not that that's wrong, but the request is that LAHSA have a plan to provide a transition for those unsheltered individuals to move into permanent supportive housing, and that there be clear communication from both the county and the state to local government. That communication is apparently currently lacking. What I can tell you from our league. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I attended the on a Zoom meeting, LA Affordable Housing and Coronavirus, How to Maintain Production and Financing During and After the Global Outbreak. It's going to be challenging. And there were 2 developers on the call, and they link housing and health. One of them did, and also express that it's going to take collaboration between philanthropic groups, cities, developers, and really work on the entitlement process, since it can add like 30% to housing costs. And I'll share more as we move forward with our new plan. There's a lot of discussion about affordable housing. I also this morning attended a WebEx meeting of Los Angeles County Commission on Local Government as one of my liaison positions. And last Friday attended the League's COVID update, and that pretty much wraps it up for me. Thank you. Now's the time for introduction of additional agenda items. Do members of the council have any items to introduce? Councilmember Murphy?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, at the meeting that I went to at the chamber, there were a lot of ideas that I thought were very creative in terms of, getting us back going. I don't think anybody wants to, open before it's safe, but at the same time, I think we need to prepare our businesses and people with what we think will be the right steps. Cleanliness, social distance, maybe curbside so they're not gathering in the lobby, things like that. And I was hoping that we could either talk about that or put guidelines that we think will help people get open, so when the time comes, they can immediately open. Obviously, we're not in charge completely during the emergency. And the other thing that a lot of people talked about was a concern about recreation. And it seems like the governor is indicating that he will look at things on a smaller scale. And they're wondering about trying to open Wildwood, places like that. And there was a strong feeling that Burbank's not Orange County and that people will follow the rules. And I just thought these ideas were worth looking at. Now, I know.
Okay. Your agenda item, please.
Well, just in terms of how to get things open so that the businesses are ready when the time comes. So,
yes.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Hess.
if I could,
Yes.
we actually do have
you.
a COVID report along with the extending the local emergency next week. Unless there's objection, it could be discussed at that point.
We can discuss it next week. How's that? It's on the agenda.
Great.
Okay, good. Vice Mayor Frutos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is more for to get help from the city manager. Because we have it in our legislative platform to support our schools, I was wondering if we can write a letter asking for our congressmen to support giving more funding to obviously local schools. Apparently the federal government is giving money for summer school funding. And in talking to this community member this evening, monies are moving forward, but it's not fairly being distributed by the federal government. And so I was wondering if, what the thoughts would be of, writing a letter that, hey, you got to consider this funding to help our schools. I don't know what your thoughts are, Mr. City Manager, if it's worth an agenda item, but it is in our legislative platform now, or maybe our Washington lobbyists can help us out. I kind of leave it up to your guidance.
Mr. Hess?
If there's no immediate urgency, we can certainly bring it back and draft a letter so all of you can review it and see it. So I'm not totally familiar with it, so I'd like to at least have it brought back.
So you know what I'm talking about. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Yes, Councilmember Gabaletti.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last week, I don't know, maybe it was the Vice Mayor who said this, but during our Complete Streets discussion, the point was made that many of these things are long range. What can we do short range? And I would think there are some things we can implement sooner than later. So here is something we can do. I would like staff to bring back consideration of lowering the speed limit on Riverside Drive. That's it. I mean, if the council thinks this is good, we could go to a second step, but it's in the vehicle.
The council.
We'll come back as a first step.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, first step. Okay. Anything else? Councilmember Talamantes, you're on mute and your lips are moving.
Good to myself. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Normal.
Okay, thank you. Okay. We now adjourn in memory of Tony Smith, Recreation Leader for the City of Burbank Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Department, to Tuesday, May 12th, 2020 at 6 o'clock p.m. for a joint meeting through an online meeting process. The public is invited to view the meeting online or on television and will be available to provide public comment in the following 3 ways: by leaving an e-comment on the city webpage, www.burbankca.gov/e-comments. 2, by emailing the City Council directly at citycouncil@burbankca.gov, by calling in directly to the council meeting at 818-238-3335. Thank you and good night.
And good night.